Say hi, audience.
Hi, audience.
Ready? Nothing shapes your life more than your commitments. Your commitments can develop you or they can destroy you, but either way, they will define you. We become whatever we are committed to. With these poignant words, Rick Warren, in his best-selling book, The Purpose-Driven Life, expresses the extent to which our commitments mold our future. Deep down, we all desire some level of satisfaction, peace, love, success. The means by which we choose to live our lives, however, are all too often incongruent with the ends we desire. Through reading The Purpose-Driven Life, as well as through studying Scripture and through life experience, I have learned what can be the devastating effect of a life of misguided commitments. Rick Warren asserts that most of us are driven by things that ultimately cannot lead to the fulfillment we desire. Only by abandoning fruitless pursuits and focusing on our purpose in this life can we achieve true long-term satisfaction. Chapter 3 of the book, entitled What Drives You, focuses on 5 factors that commonly drive most Americans, as well as the recompense of living a purpose-driven life instead. Most people are driven by one of 5 things: guilt, fear, resentment, materialism, or the need for approval. Burdened by guilt, many go through life tormented by the results of past choices, and driven by the desire to overcome or undo them. As Thoreau said, the mass of men live lives of quiet desperation. Others carry resentment or anger, perhaps the residue of broken relationships, or of foiled attempts at what might have been, perhaps grudges that seem too heavy to unloose. Fear controls a lot of us: fear of the unknown, fear of rejection, fear of what others might say, fear of losing safety or security. My friend and scholar Peter Mosley posited that all fears in this life must ultimately stem from the fear of death. I would respond that it must then follow that any hope we have in this life, which countervails such fears, necessarily must stem from the hope of a life that transcends death, and that without such hope in life eternal, there is no option but for one to be driven by the fear of death and the attendant consequences thereof on this life. Most people in wealthy nations are driven by materialism to some extent. Ever striving for a little more, we find ourselves constantly wanting, yet never satisfied. Finally, many are driven by the need for others' approval. When our identity lies in other people, we will be driven by the need to seek their praise, and in so doing, we will abandon whatever commitments might lead to our own long-term satisfaction. So, only by living a purpose-driven life, asserts Warren, can we find true fulfillment in our fleeting years. God alone gives purpose, and purpose yields meaning and significance. A meaningless life is one lacking in hope and significance. Only knowing your purpose can lead to simplifying, focusing, and motivating your life. Your purpose must be greater than self. All of us have gifts and talents which we have not for our own self-benefit, but to serve God and for the benefit of our neighbors. Worldly pursuits may bring temporal pleasure, but only the abandonment of such pursuits and a firm commitment to carrying out your purpose in life can yield satisfaction. Warren exhorts us to remove or ignore activities that do not further the accomplishment of our purpose, and to relish the passion that comes from being driven by our purpose. Being driven by the forces of this world will lead to discontentment, regret, and despair. What drives you? Is it guilt, fear, resentment, possessions, approval? Or are you living a purpose-driven life? The choice is yours. I dare say that I have merely uncovered the divine spark of desire within myself, which lies within us all. Will you do likewise, act upon it, and live? Or will you let the spark remain unkindled, buried under years of apathy, complacency, and trepidation? Live intentionally, serve God humbly, and love boldly.